Jeff, go get your money, bro. I thought Canada was a post-scarcity, post-violence model for the world where people don't lock their doors at night. Now where the hell am I supposed to seek asylum when Trump wins re-election? This video is brought to you by Base Strength AI. Yes, I am using this unfortunate circumstance to hawk my app. I'm preparing for the very likely possibility that my son is not scholarship material.
You're not scholarship material.
I'm just kidding. My son's a genius. Some people struggle with the complexity of programming for size and strength, so we took the guesswork out of it. Base Strength AI starts with my programs. 3 proven periodization models to choose from, each one awesome by itself, but now you get complete auto-regulation for exercise selection, volume recommendations, and weight adjustments as you get stronger, which you will. The updates are given set to set, second by second, as you update your workout. Not even an online coach can do that. And this is 1/10 of the price.
1/10 of the price?
Yes, 1/10 of the price. And fuck it, while we're here, I'm gonna double dip. Go to barbellapparel.com, get some Bromley merch. Do it for baby Theo. That eye surgery is gonna be expensive. I guess he could just be Bubbles for Halloween every year. So let's set the stage to see how we got here. Start out with Jeff Nippard, who makes a career off of branding science-based natural training, and he's successful, amassing near 6 million subscribers on YouTube and probably being the most widely recognizable figure at the intersection of bodybuilding and powerlifting. And he's largely liked and respected, but there's controversy. Some people have a bone to pick, and I know I've made my share of videos about it. There's just something about a small guy like Jeff making critiques about the biggest, strongest people on the planet, not off the merits of his own experience training IFBB pros and world level powerlifting competitors, but rather off a basis of thin, underpowered research papers, because slapping science and optimal on a 5-day per week high frequency training program that nobody fucking does because study turns out is a really, really good branding strategy, whether or not it's bullshit. But my opinions are neither here nor there. I'm just laying the groundwork. Now, of the people who poke fun at the evidence-based contingency of lifters and influencers is one Mike Van Wyck, who's a regular on Fuad's podcast. He is a pretty big dude, over 6 foot, a bodybuilder, and he made this video about Jeff some time ago.
Science guys really need to answer this question before anything. Why is it that you remain so mediocre, yet you know so much? Somehow you're an expert on muscle, but you don't have any. And if you do have any, it's not that well put together, and there's a lot of like holes in the physique, and you've prided yourself on being strong. Fucking little, but I'm strong. Fucking stronger than you, dude. There's a lot of scammers, if you guys know, in like the day trading world. Those guys are all fucking bullshit artists, guys. Run from them. Those guys are the guys I'm talking about in the fitness world.
Now keep in mind, folks, that Jeff and Mike train at the same gym. Now Jeff, having every right to be shitty and fire back, does a very Jeff Nippard thing and responds with a very well thought out, scripted, principled, high road type response. He really shows his maturity here.
Science guys really need to answer this question before anything. Why is it that you remain so mediocre, yet you know so much?
I know I don't need to respond to this, but since he asked, using science-based training, I won Natural Bodybuilding Nationals. I earned my pro card on the most competitive stage in the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation. I placed second in my first bodybuilding pro show, and while doing this, I set the Canadian record on the bench press, and I set a provincial record on the squat. I currently weigh 180 pounds at 5 foot 5 inches tall, which is pretty close to my natural limit given my height and my genetics. That's all besides the point though, because facts are facts. Information is either right or wrong. It doesn't matter who that information is coming from. If the people with the best physiques had the most knowledge, why would C-Bum need a coach? He has the best physique on the planet. Who could possibly know more than him? Well, it's pretty obvious that bodybuilding success comes from great genetics and really hard training, and if you want to make it in the IFBB, steroid use. I like science because it gives me more confidence in what actually works and what doesn't, because it isolates variables. If you trust a big guy's advice over scientific studies, that doesn't bother me. I listen to what big guys have to say too.
Now that response obviously angered Mike, because then the thing happened that brought us all here today. Now it looks like Mike, without any provocation, walked up to Jeff, grabbed him by the throat, and threw him to the ground as hard as he could. Now Jeff gave his position on Instagram, and multiple people reporting on this have said it's been corroborated by more than a few witnesses. Jeff writes, I got a CT scan done and I'm okay. Mike Van Wyck jabbed me in the throat twice in the middle of the gym and then shoved my cameraman. There's already a lie going around that Mike asked me to stay away from him and that I didn't listen, and I approached him first. This is false, and Pure Muscle and Fitness has security footage to prove it. I think they should release it. As I was filming bicep curls for a YouTube short, Mike brushed by me and said, "Sup." This was our first engagement that day. I chuckled. Mike said, "Oh, things are about to get real funny," as he walked past me. I then asked him, "What do you mean by that?" And I made sure my cameraman was filming in case he tried any funny business. Then he walked back towards me. He said, turn the camera off, and immediately jabbed me in the throat, and I fell onto the floor. I stood back up and he told me to never talk about him again. Then he jabbed me in the throat a second time. Then he turned to my videographer and pushed him against a cable machine. Then he walked away. As of now, Pure Muscle and Fitness is still allowing Mike to train clients at the gym. Now, according to Jeff, since this has been posted, it seems that Pure Muscle and Fitness has actually banned Mike Wyck from the gym. And if history is any indicator, that's probably just one in a long line of consequences that Mike is going to see for engaging in such a public display of fuckery. Now, Fuad, who is a friend of Mike's and hosts the bodybuilding podcast that Mike is a regular on, gave this response.
People complain about cancel culture and how bad it is. And then once something they don't agree with happens, they quickly jump to cancellation. Anybody out there who's messaging me because they think I'm going to kick Mike off the podcast because of whatever happened between him and Jeff, please don't message me anymore. Please don't comment to me anymore about it. Mike will be on the podcast as long as he wants to be. Mike will be my friend forever. And anybody who ditches a friend because something bad happened to them or they're in some type of turmoil is a fucking asshole. And that's not who I am. So whatever Mike is dealing with, I'm there to support him and help him deal with it. Whether he's right or wrong doesn't matter to me. He's still going to be my friend, and he's still going to be on the podcast as my friend whenever he feels like it. So that's just my statement, and whoever doesn't agree with it, too bad.
People see something they don't like and they go for canceling. This is a very strange response. I get the idea of wanting to stick up for your friends even though they fucked up or are going through a rough time, but this struck me wrong for a few reasons. See, Fuad has two options that he can use to virtue signal. He can either do the one where I don't believe in cancel culture and I stick by my friends, and then the other one is I don't tolerate violence or bullying, and I won't associate with unhinged predators who fuck it up for the rest of us, who are a liability to my business and income. And oh, by the way, I don't know, something about free speech, like not throwing people around by the throat because they said something you don't like, maybe toughen up, Buttercup. And Fuad decided he's going for the first, not in the this is a really difficult decision kind of way, but like he isn't really bothered by what Mike did and it's a no-brainer. Like, yeah, he can come on my podcast as much as he wants. I don't care who he assaults in public. Now, I'll be interested to see how it pans out because it's easy to be the I stick by my friends guy when you're seeing literally no consequences for their actions. But the internet viewership, Fuad's viewership, is going to be split into the two factions I just described. People that are like, yeah, stick by your friends, fuck cancel culture. And other people that are like, standards? Now, if enough people see Fuad shrugging off blatant bullying just to stick by his boy as being off-putting, it might affect viewership. That's going to affect his pocketbook. I don't ditch friends is really only a principle if you're willing to stick by them and suffer the consequences that come from their actions and from being associated with them after the fact. Maybe he is, we'll see. But I think when you have obviously amoral, predatory, bullying, and illegal behavior in one hand, and then your income, your livelihood, your mortgage on the other, I think it's a no-brainer. I think Fuad would absolutely be justified from every fucking perspective in saying, hey, Mike, we're going to take a break for a couple of months, get some help, keep us updated. We'll circle back to this. I mean, you can throw accusations of supporting cancel culture at people that want Mike to see consequences for his obviously unhinged behavior and for being a violent dickwad, but you can also throw accusations at Fuad for just doing the lazy thing and being an enabler by enforcing literally no standards or expectations in his social and professional circles. And when it comes to men's circles, I really think checks and balances are needed, standards are needed. So I see that type of underreaction as just as pathetic and abhorrent as when there is a virtue signaling purity spiral that leads to an overreaction. I absolutely think you can support a friend who fucked up and crossed a line while still showing that you have expectations and that standards are important. This response just kind of hit me as fuck you, internet, you don't tell me what to do. Now, speaking of the internet, they are roasting Mike for this in the comments. I mean, people are teeing off about his unacceptable behavior to the tune of tens of thousands of likes per comment. This is Mike Van Wyck's Will Smith slapping Chris Rock moment. Here you got this gentleman making a post to the effect of, try pushing me, tough guy. And for those of you who don't know who this gentleman is, here is him doing a one-arm 315 bench press. Now, this is huge for a few reasons. A big one is it's kind of nice to see that bullies get responses in a language that they can understand. When you get somebody who is so violent and impulsive and aggressive that they'll do something like this to somebody much smaller than them in front of a camera at their place of business with lots of witnesses, The appeal to morality, decency, a philosophical and spiritual commitment to like better communication and problem solving isn't worth a bucket of snot. I mean, he didn't care about protecting his own livelihood. You're really going to appeal to like decency? But everybody has their lizard brain humming in the background, and no matter what, that recognizes when you're outgunned. Now, this is a really important lesson for all the dipshit try-hard powerlifters who chuckle as they type "talk shit, get hit" into the comments. There is always someone bigger. This is why laws exist the way that they do. When you use a certain strategy to solve a problem, it sets a precedent that others will absolutely do the same. It's the golden fucking rule. Not do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but whatever you do unto others, they will surely do unto you. If you throw a rock, they throw a rock. You drop a fucking nuke, get an umbrella because it's gonna be raining fallout for a few decades. So if your brilliant method for regulating speech or for checking people who say things you don't like is to just shut down the other side, or grab them by the throat and throw them to the ground, you better hope that you've got the firepower to hold onto the talking stick for the rest of fucking eternity. Because the second the other side gets it, they're gonna be making the rules on who can say what, and they'll be using the exact same tactics you did. And in a society of millions of people where different opinions have to coexist, and we value the ability of people to voice said opinions, to challenge ideas, to engage in the marketplace of free ideas, what I just described is a really, really, really shitty way to run things. But thank God we've got a Bill of Rights written by principled, hard men who fought and felt firsthand the cost of fighting those battles. But I'm an American. I don't know what the fuck they have in Canada. Now, likewise, if your rule for engaging with people you don't like or ideas that piss you off is talk shit, get hit, then the winner is going to be whoever has the heaviest hands, not who's the most principled. And the rub is that in the Wild West, in the jungle, in the fucking Thunderdome, the odds that you are at the top of the food chain is just about zero. Now look at what some of the geniuses in the comments had to say to this. Influencer in SpongeBob type. You're a bench-only equipped lifter. Shut the fuck up. And something about reading this in an Australian accent makes it so much worse. Like the performative fantasy that these idiots live in. Like there is any world where your ability to stuff yourself into a burlap fucking sack and lay down on a bench and slingshot a barbell off of your fat fucking stomach have to do with your role as a dangerous man. Look at this. You got the long overgrown beard that just tells everybody that you were born to fight in the gladiator pits, except it's manicured and no doubt has a lot of beard oil in it. Real force to be reckoned with. When problems like these start and it leads to an arm race, when they escalate, not a single bit of it has to do with a bench off any more than it has to do with a fucking dance off. Like you're talking about like knife and gun violence being the ultimate conclusion of this. Fellas, a featherweight wrestler at a D2 university is somebody to be worried about. This guy is a fucking poser. And it's always a poser with these takes. Can you imagine calling a lawyer instead of pushing back? What I can't imagine is a better proxy for how much of a mess somebody's life is than the way that they root for people who use impulsive, asocial, reactive, self-destructive, untenable fucking strategies to solve problems. Like, bro, I could write your fucking permanent record. Like, you're operating off rules of play that only fly in prison and like 4th grade. Like, what is supposed to happen when somebody fucks with you in the real world? John Wick 4? Put the VR headset down, son. Go talk to some people out in the world. These goons should be so lucky that lawyers and a judicial system actually exist, because if the rule really was that adults solve discrepancies with a fucking duel, their PlayStation 5 fantasy of being a lone gunman in a post-apocalyptic Thunderdome of a world would crumble to ashes really fucking quick as they came to realize the new cost of actually piping up with an opinion. Like, you're gonna have a long life being really fucking quiet, or you're gonna have a short life being as opinionated as you are now. So I think it's important that this shit gets nipped in the bud really quick, and I am relieved that the internet seems to agree and they are giving him the business. I hate cringy, fake hard strength athletes. It's obviously fantasy, and it's a fantasy that we don't need more of in this hobby that we all do in the first world. I know why somebody spends 10 hours a week in the gym trying to chase a bigger bench press, and it's not because they are a very secure, emotionally stable person. It's because we're looking for validation that we didn't get in fucking high school. You want to be a dangerous person, go serve in the military and then spend about a decade training for MMA. That's a person worth worrying about. The internet seems to be on it. Hopefully Jeff isn't any worse for wear. I know he's going to benefit from the upswell of support he's about to get, and I absolutely do hope that he sues the ever-loving shit out of Mike. 100%. If you're one of these idiots out there that think bringing lawyers into it or pressing charges is a bitch move, you are guilty of participating in the fantasy that I just talked about. Because if you're Jeff, there's only 2 other options. One, physical retribution, eye for an eye, you get a weapon to level the playing field, my friends versus your friends, an arms race ensues. And if this seems ridiculous, it's because you don't live in an area where this is the norm. I came from San Bernardino in Southern California. This was very much the norm in many of those places. But if this is your go-to, then you're complicit in engaging in the criminality that contributes to social decay that is absolutely responsible for rotting away poor areas and inner cities like we see all over the United States. You're not a better person for it. You're part of the fucking problem. Now, option number 2 is to do nothing. Maybe it's principle, taking the high road. Maybe you're actually scared. Maybe you don't want to risk your livelihood. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Mike's bigger. He threw the first blow. The smaller guy decides fighting back isn't worth the trouble. Both of those options set an absolutely unacceptable precedent for society, and the people that advocate for it are cancerous, dysfunctional losers who probably couldn't manage a Rubio's. For someone in Jeff's position, a grown-ass man with responsibilities and an entitlement not to be throat punched in public, Mike needs to be checked, but the cycle of violence can't continue. So we use the tools society has implemented for us to use. Jeff, go get your money, bro. So that's all I got to say about that. This was obviously some sensationalist muckraking, but it gave me an opportunity to talk about some principles, some views about the way society works I think are important and relevant to our time, where we are always talking about how to handle disagreements, how to deal with cancel culture, etc. These are some of my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave it in the comments. I'm not gonna read it. I turned over a new leaf. No longer am I going 9 paragraphs per comment telling people how they're fucking stupid, because that's just not a very healthy way to live, and I'm here for the same reason you are. Self-improvement. I'm just kidding, that's a complete lie. I'll see all you motherfuckers in the comments.